Hello, control freaks. It's good to be back here on Let's Talk Reef. I don't know, I just got all pumped up there by the intro music. I haven't heard that in a little while. So I am glad to be here today with all of you to talk about new stuff and talk about upcoming product releases as in terms of availability, which is tonight, and talk about some of our exciting new products that we have coming up. So first off, I want to say I want to give things away on this show. So part of the way that we are going to make that happen is getting people on the stream, commenting here in the comments, and watching and being involved, right? So I'm going to put it out there right now. For every 25 people that we have watching the stream tonight, I will be giving away an LLS, a liquid level sensor of your choosing in size, whoever I call out. It'll be based on people who are commenting and asking questions. So so get people in there. Let's share this around. Let's let them know Let's Talk Reef is happening tonight, and we're going to be talking about new products. Right? So new product availability in our A3 series Apex, which you see here over to the left of me, and new product availability in new FMM sensors, specifically a new liquid level sensor, a new leak sensor, and an optical sensor. And we're going to get a little bit techy today, so I'm going to be going into the how it works. I got an engineer coming on here in a little bit. We're going to be going into what we would use it for, and what is the best size for each application. All of those sorts of different questions. Some of the things that us control freaks just love to get into. We're going to be getting into that tonight, or tonight, I should say. So I'm excited. Also, I am going to talk about something coming up here in a few weeks, starting on September 8th, maybe 9th. Someone will keep me true here in a little bit. MACNA 2022 in Milwaukee. Neptune Systems will be there. Our sister company, Ecotech Marine, will be there. And we will be talking about things that are happening. So I'm going to go into detail on that. So that's what's going to happen today. And I hope you guys are excited. So first off, do we have any questions that I can hit on really early here? What does a liquid level sensor do? We're going to be getting into that, Kevin, don't worry. All right. All right, I'm not seeing any pertinent questions for what I want to get into right now. We might have missed a lot because a lot of questions are happening there, which I really love to see. All right, so first off, right, let's talk about product releases and what's happening. So a couple weeks ago, I was on Ask BRS TV, and we talked about the next series of Apex that's coming out, our A3 series of Apexes. And what those are, essentially, are the Apexes that you know and love, right? Are the Apex that you've used, and the Apex EL that you've used, and now they integrate in our FMM module, right? And we know the FMM ports, right? They are something that we know, and now we've put that inside these new units to add added functionality. Further, we've included in these packages FMM sensors to help you get the most value out of an Apex system. And a lot of our control freaks that are out there, people that use the A2 Apex, said, well, what about me, right? And what we're coming out with tonight at midnight tonight, we are coming out with things for our A2 series customers, which include our liquid level sensors, which I'll dive into a little bit later, a new optical sensor, and a leak detector. Specifically though, let's talk a little bit about the A3 series, all right? We have our A3 Pro here. This is a 25th anniversary A3 Pro. It's very similar to the Apex you know, but it has 4 of those FMM ports there. Further, it does pH, it does ORP, it does temperature, it does the variable voltage, it has an Ethernet port, and it has a salinity port. The salinity probe is not included though, because we've opted to replace that out with sensors that we feel like you're going to get more use out of. And those sensors include our 15-inch liquid level sensor, okay? and a optical leak sensor. Sorry, I have a bag of tricks over here. I have all sorts of tricks for today. It'll be fun. And then we have our A2 series Apex. That was the A3 Pro. We have our A2 series Apex, which is essentially a replacement for our Apex CL. It includes the 3 FMM ports. Did I say A2? This is the A3 Apex, which includes 3 of the FMM accessory ports and has the temperature and pH and its replacement for that. But what's really exciting is that Neptune Systems tonight is releasing the Apex Jr. All right, the Apex Jr. we're very excited about. Here's the box for the Apex Jr. It is our first monitoring only solution that we have delivered after kind of much demand. We had many years ago a Apex monitoring only that we released through BRS, and it literally sold out in a night. Right? It included pH level sensors, but it really wasn't the complete package. The A3 Apex Jr. includes 2 of those FMM accessory ports, includes the ability to monitor temperature, the ability to monitor pH, and the ability to add additional Aquabus devices should you so choose, like the Energy Bar 4, the Energy Bar 832, the Trident, the Dose, any number of things. Essentially, it allows you to get the monitoring that you need, right? And that monitoring, the most common reasons why any tank is not going to succeed long term is most likely due to temperature reasons, and that will be something the Apex Jr. offers right out the back. The second thing is, you have chemical things happen in your tank due to dosing, calc phosphor, all these sorts of different things, and the Apex Jr. takes care of that with pH. Finally, it gives you level monitoring, so you can put a level sensor nice and low in your sump, so you can be notified if your pump is going to begin cavitating. And then finally, if there is water on the floor, we all want to know about it. So the monitoring only solution comes out tonight at midnight. All right, and if you've always thought that you've wanted to get into the Apex ecosystem, but it seemed a little intimidating, the A3 Apex Jr. is something that is probably going to be a good fit for you. It's going to give you essentially a out-of-box experience in which we take you through every step of the way. How to set up your temperature alerts, how to set up your pH alerts, what those alerts should be, right? And where you should place the sensor. And then as you get more comfortable with that, you'll be able to get into possibly control at some point. You'll be able to get into turning outlets on or off, should temperature get too high or too low. Temperature gets too low, turn the heater on, goes up a degree, turn the heater off. Gets too high, have a fan over your sump or your tank and turn a fan on to allow for evaporative cooling. Right? These things will allow you to A, control things in a more narrow range and also allow your tank to be more stable. These are all things that we're really excited about in terms of being able to offer to our customers, because ultimately we feel that people, once they dip their toe in the world of the Neptune Systems ecosystem, right, they're going to be more successful long term. Right? And that's what we're all really here about doing, where we want to make our customers and to-be customers more successful, right? And I think the A3 Jr. is going to be a big thing that takes a step in a very positive direction on how to do that. And so that is available tonight. It includes the Apex Jr., it includes temperature probe, it includes a pH probe, it includes a leak probe, and includes a level probe. That will all retail for $300 or $299.95 and is available through all of the Neptune Systems reseller network, right? It will be released internationally in a couple of weeks, so it will be available for our international customers as well. So basically, the Junior is going to give you that ability to get into the monitoring and then get into the control when you're ready for it. You can add, great question, Stephen. you can add any of the Neptune Systems products that work on any of the A2 series or the A3 series. You can add any of those to the Apex Junior, right? For example, if you say, you know what, I really want just to do additive dosing. That's all that I want to do. An Apex Junior and a dose is the answer, right? If you want to do, you know, flow sensor monitoring, you could even remove one of those other sensors we gave you and just get a flow sensor and be good to go. Or you could add an FMM module, you know. If you want to do PAR sensor monitoring, we have a PAR monitoring kit. All of them, basically, you can just continue to add to the Junior and can expand that Apex ecosystem if you so choose. However, if you just want to do monitoring, you can do that, right? People often say, like, well, can I do a Trident? Yes, you can do a Trident. The Trident, though, only connects with a 1 link in the United States, so you just have to get a power supply with it, and then it'll be good to go. See, Vincent, someone is commenting about the lighting there. You know, he says my shirt is too white. All right, I can't help the white shirt. It's the Neptune Systems sales guy look, right? I can't get away from that. But yeah, I do feel that I'm a little washed out, Russ. Thanks for your. They were telling me that I was just seeing things earlier. So that's the A3 series. And so you have the A3 Junior when you're ready for when you want to get into monitoring. If you want that same monitoring but want to add control, A3 Apex is your best fit. You may say, well, why wouldn't I just get the A3 Junior and then add an Energy Bar 832? There's a reason for that. On the Apex, you're going to get a I/O port, right? This allows you to use those cool adaptive reef boxes, I/O breakout box. But by far the best thing about the A3 Apex from the A3 Junior is it includes that Ethernet port, okay? I love connecting over Wi-Fi and not having to run a wire and all that sort of different thing, but just like for a life support system, sometimes it's just better to run an Ethernet cable, right? Most of the Apexes in our facility, while they are connected to Wi-Fi, we kind of always have an Ethernet cable around. Further, you know, most of these Nest systems these days too, these, you know, I use the Google system in my home, and there's the Netgear system. Most of these systems will have different satellites that have Ethernet ports on them. It's very good just to connect those via Ethernet if you can. You may say, well, why didn't we include that in on the Junior? I mean, the big reason why we didn't include it in the Junior, it is monitoring only, right? So it isn't necessarily a control aspect. It's more of a notification aspect in its kind of theory. And then secondly, you know, the part of the Apex Junior's appeal is it delivers exactly what you need and not everything else, not all the bells and whistles. Putting that Ethernet in there adds cost, right? And not everyone is interested in paying more just to have additional features. That's why the A3 Apex could be a better fit for you if you are looking for that Ethernet port. So I've talked a lot about the A3 series, probably more than I even expected to just now, but because I've been talking about it on AskBRS TV and everything else. But what's also launching tonight, in addition to the monitoring only A3 Junior, is our new FMM accessories, right? And so those FMM accessories include the liquid level sensor, which I pulled out a little bit ago. I'm going to pull it out again because I think it's just cool to see it. It's really hard to see behind this bright white shirt, that's for sure. But that is a sensor that's going to give you the ability to monitor water level, right? So if it's at you have 4 inches in your sump, it'll show 4 inches in your Apex dashboard. So it's like looking at your sump and having eyes on your sump without actually having to look at it. In addition to that, we have, like I said, a new optical sensor and a new leak sensor as well. They're available at all major retailers and across between saltwateraquarium.com, Bulk Reef Supply, your local fish store. If they are a Neptune Systems dealer and an active Neptune Systems dealer, they will have it in stock. The only thing I did want to comment on is the 35-inch LLS, the really big one for reservoirs. That will be available probably early next week. So you'll see that that is not yet available tonight at midnight. No one has it available. It'll be available early next week. So Anyways, that is all I want to talk about on the A3 Apex. Are there any questions? There's lots of questions, he says. All right. So will the level sensors, you can put that up there. We'll talk about the level sensors a lot more, but will they work in a calc solution? We're actually gonna go all into that detail in a little bit. I love that you guys are asking these things. Does the new Apex support the salinity probe? Absolutely, right? We just simply thought that there were other sensors that customers would get more value of, including this liquid level sensor and the optical leak sensor. The salinity probe, while a very valuable probe, it is a probe that a lot of customers ultimately didn't use the way that they were hoping to use it, or they didn't use it due to dropping it on the floor or something like that. It's a fragile probe. Now we have a more robust offering in that main package. We'll go into that. We'll go into what sizes the sensors are in during that part. So, bunch of LS questions. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's move on then. So now I want to talk about a little bit about MACNA. Booyah, who likes MACNA? This guy likes MACNA. I've been to every MACNA since Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm sure there's somebody who's going to pop in here on the stream and say they've been here to every MACNA since 2005 or something like that. That is that's great, right? But I love MACNA. I've been to every single one since then, and I can't wait to go to fabulous Milwaukee, Wisconsin. All right. Sorry. I didn't mean to, sorry. There's other people here. I'm from the Midwest myself. I've gone through Milwaukee many times. It's actually a very hospitable town. I can't wait to be there for MACNA. And basically, we're going to really be able to focus in on, why we all do this, right? It's a conference that includes a lot of speakers. It's a conference in which we see all of our friends who we haven't seen in a long time, and a conference in which we get to speak to manufacturers like those from Neptune Systems. Right? So I'm very excited for MACNA, but probably what I'm most excited for is that there will be a Neptune Systems MACNA meetup. All right? We're going to be talking about the eighth annual Neptune Systems meetup. All right, and it will have, we've started to basically have the outline down. We know what people are going to talk about, and I just want to make sure that you guys know exactly what you can expect when you come to the Neptune Systems meetup. First off, it will start nice and early. So we've had lines going around the door, typically starting about 6:30 in the morning, and this one will be no different. This meetup will start at 7 a.m. and will go essentially from 7 a.m. till 9:30 a.m. and it will be in the main speaker room of the at the MACNA Hall. We will have guests, from other speakers who know about Neptune Systems and things like that. But the Master of Ceremonies, I'm happy to introduce that we're going to have Patrick Clazen from our sister company, Ecotech Marine. He is going to kind of lead the event, bring it along, in terms of introducing speakers and kind of keeping us on tempo. I've really enjoyed working with Patrick, and I'm excited to have him here at the meetup, being the Master of Ceremonies for the event. Who can forget Richard Ross? Richard Ross is a fabulous person, and we could not introduce Richard Ross without a octopus on his head, that is for sure. But he will be there, and he'll be talking specifically about how he has been using the liquid level sensors and the things that it's changed for him as a hobbyist. And of course, our good friend Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank, will be joining us as well. And he is, to say that he is an Apex Pro in terms of installations and things of that would be a drastic understatement, right? And so we'll have 3 great speakers, including myself. I will be speaking mostly about the A3 series and some of the new and upcoming products. And I can guarantee that we will be talking about the release of upcoming products at this meetup. So if you want to be the first to know about it and hear it from the horse's mouth, being at that meetup is going to be a good thing. Finally, no, not finally, there will be giveaways. We give away a lot of things at the meetup. It includes raffle items from sponsors and includes raffle items from Neptune Systems to basically, kind of celebrate you, our control freaks, and kind of everything that you do essentially to help other control freaks and things like that, to help you make yourselves have more successful aquariums. Finally, not finally, there is more. Wait, there's more. There will be a breakfast. Of course there will be a breakfast. The breakfast is basically your typical fare of Sammy's and all that sort of thing. And there, of course, there will be booze, okay? It is on Friday. Thank you for keeping me straight. It is on the first day of MACNA at 7 a.m. That's when we're gonna start. I recommend getting there early. So if you did register, you'll be able to do that. And of course, we wouldn't be able to have this great event without having sponsors, right? And so at the 8th annual MACNA, so far we have 2 great sponsors. SaltwaterAquarium.com has been sponsoring this event for as long as I can remember, since they've been doing business with us. Specifically, they sponsor big aspects of that breakfast, making sure that we're all nice and not hungry and ready to start our day with some nice mimosas and champagne. And of course, how can I forget our sister company, BRS, right? They're a big part of making that raffle kind of next level, you know? And I'm excited to have both of those sponsors involved, and there'll probably be a couple more as we continue to get closer to the event. So the next question is, how are you going to sign up? That URL shouldn't be live. I didn't check. Maybe I used that URL before. On Friday of this week, that URL will become live with a sign up. The first 200 people are guaranteed their breakfast and raffle tickets and all of those things. The next 100 people are guaranteed raffle tickets. And beyond that, it's standing room only. We open it up to the rest of everyone. So I am excited to have that all on there, and can't wait for you guys to be sure to sign up, joining us, and I can't wait to see some control freaks come. I think it's September 8th. I don't know. I think it's September 8th. It's the Friday of MACNA morning. All right. I am ready to get into technical aspects, how things work. That's why we're all there. But first, I want to make sure there are no questions. If it's a question about LLS, I'm not answering yet, okay? No. Any questions about the meetup or anything like that? Comments? Okay. Oh, I like that. Actually, I like that statement. Thank you, Ken. Yes, it's a big part of that. I'm really glad you're involved in this again. I saw a comment there. I think we should maybe do this. We'll get it set up to do some live streaming of the meetup. Normally we haven't done that, but I like that. I don't think it will be super professional. It won't be like a live recording of the speakers that we typically do. You get throughout the MACNA event. But I like the idea of setting up a tripod in the back and streaming that on Facebook or YouTube or something like that. All right. Anything else? All right, let's get started. So I gotta say, I love getting up here and talking by myself. It's a really great thing to do. I love your comments. They do make me feel like I'm not just like speaking in a silo, if you will. But I'd like to bring on one of Neptune Systems employee here, okay? And he's been with us he's relatively new. And I haven't had him here on Let's Talk Reef before. So without further ado, I'd like to invite someone from engineering to join us for technical aspects. Hugo? Oh, wow, nice, that kind of worked. It did. That kind of worked. I just saw that. That was great. We thought that would be funny, like he just shows up. So Hugo, welcome to Let's Talk Reef. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Doing great. I am super excited about these product launches.
Me too.
Yep. Oh, he didn't. Oh, he didn't unmute.
Sorry, rookie mistake.
Didn't unmute.
Better? Awesome.
So, Hugo, welcome. How's it going?
Pretty good, yourself?
All right, good. So, excited about these new products. I'm excited they're launching tonight at 12 p.m. Central and 12 a.m. Central at Neptune Systems retailers everywhere.
Awesome.
I'm very excited about that. Did you sense the excitement?
I did.
Like, where would you say that was on a 9 to 10, on a 1 to 10 scale?
I'm going to say 11 and a half.
I was at 11 and a half.
Yeah.
Did you know that these amps, they go to 11?
I was told.
I go to 11 and a half apparently. All right, so I'm excited about that. But what I'm also really excited about is we haven't got into any tech recently. Right? And so I wanted to bring you on here because I'll just start talking and maybe I'm not saying what's actually right or how things actually work. And I thought there'd be no better person to have you here.
Perfect.
So you've been with us now for how long?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half. COVID time, man. It feels like it hasn't been that long.
You're right.
You know, everything just has changed since that whole 2020 debacle. You know, this is the first MACNA since 2019. Can you believe it's been that long?
I cannot.
You cannot. I mean, you haven't been to a MACNA.
I've never been, no.
You've been to any shows yet?
I have not.
We got to get you to a show.
I agree.
We got to
Can you
get
tell
you to a
my
show.
boss that?
Yeah, we got to get you to a show. I don't think we'll be able to do it for this year, but
right.
We will get you to a show soon.
Cool.
All right, cool. So, first off, I want to talk about the LLS.
Cool.
Okay, so the LLS is this guy here. Okay, this is the one that's included with the A3 Pro. I'm going to hold it behind you because you can kind of see it then with the gray background.
Right.
So this is the one that's included with the A3 Pro. Okay, and we think it's probably going to be the most popular. But there are 3 other sizes, correct?
Correct.
So we got the 15. We've got the, actually, you know what? What's your favorite LLS, Hugo?
My favorite one is the 15-inch.
Okay, so we've got that one down. What's your next favorite?
My next favorite is the 4-inch.
The 4 is your favorite.
Yes, second favorite.
Why is the 4 your favorite?
Because I think we'll get into that a little bit later.
But you have reasons. You have
I
engineering reasons why
I
the
do.
4 is your favorite.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Then we have probably your next favorite, the 23. Okay, this is basically just a bigger version of the 15.
Right.
I think it gets used in the same applications. And we're going to get into applications here in a little bit.
Right.
Okay, and then we have the red-headed stepchild right here. Okay,
Yes.
the 35. Okay, it's a big sensor, big. It's like, you know, all to all, it's like 43 inches long. It's been a pain in the butt for engineering reasons and for shipping reasons and for cleaning reasons, but it is a great sensor. Once it gets into your hands, you will be very happy with this sensor because we spent so much time making sure it works wonderfully for you guys. So we've got the 35, the 23, the 15, and the 4.
Right.
Okay. Oh gosh. Can you pull up the pricing for me real quick, Vincent? I can't remember. And I want to give you guys the pricing. I remember where it starts, but I want to make sure that I don't confuse it with one of our dealer tiers or something like that.
Makes sense.
A lot of things going on in old Duder's head up here. You know. Anyhow, but while Vincent's getting that pulled up for me, let's talk a little bit about. I mean, these things are kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm making Vincent run hoops here, but let's go ahead and pull this and see what it looks like real quick underneath this close-up cam. You're okay. So it's a sensor, right? All right, there it goes. This thing takes a second to focus sometimes, guys. There we go, perfect. So it's a 4-inch sensor, it works with a very, very, very thin piece of material.
Yes.
Right? And I have no idea how that works.
Okay.
Tell me how.
Sure. Okay, so in essence, what it is 2 sheets of paper. Right down the middle, there's resistive material that goes down.
So in the middle of these pieces of paper,
Correct.
right, we have basically a resistive material between them.
Correct.
Okay, understood.
So what happens is as the water fills up in that tube, as it slowly goes up, the resistance changes. Okay? So,
Can you move it to full screen?
sure. And as it rises, the FMM interprets that resistance, and then it calculates the actual depth of the water level.
So water enters into the sensor.
Correct.
These two very thin pieces of paper
Right. Come
are
together
squeezed,
by pressure.
right?
Correct.
And so water comes up and is squeezing these thin pieces of paper, if you will.
Correct.
And then that will basically tell us how high water is.
Therefore, with that pressure, when putting it together, it changes the resistance.
Exactly. And so then that will then tell us how high the water level is.
Correct.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I think so.
So when there isn't water there, right, does it immediately reflect that? How does that aspect of it work? Because I would imagine these two pieces of paper like kind of come together, and just like if I put two pieces of paper together, you know, they wouldn't immediately just fall apart.
Correct.
You know?
So it actually takes some time to react.
So,
Typically, it's about 15 seconds per inch.
So at the basically at the most, it would take 15 seconds for these pieces of paper to separate.
Per inch.
Okay, and show the change in water level.
Correct.
And that would be going up or down?
Correct.
Probably a little bit slower on the down, though.
It's definitely slower on the down than it is on the upward.
That's very cool.
I think so too.
I really like this technology.
Me too.
I really like this sensor, which we'll get into what we use this sensor for in a second. The other thing I've noticed about this sensor, and if Vincent, you could put down the close-up one again. And this is here. Let me move it just a little so you guys can see it just right. So this sensor, I'm seeing it start here at 0, right? So what's that about?
Okay, well the biggest issue is that at that bottom inch, you know, as you mentioned, the bottom to the 0, that range, there's hardly any slope in resistance.
Okay.
So there's very, very, very little slope. So actually measuring that precisely is really difficult to do.
So you get like gobbledygook below that 0 measurement.
Right, the 0.1 or the 0.2, differentiating.
Doesn't do a great job there.
Correct.
And so basically we decided to kill that whole bottom inch.
Offset it, right?
Right, we decided to offset it and say 1 inch in reality is actually 0 inches on the sensor.
Correct.
Okay, I understand. Because if you look at the democratizations here, you know, there are actually it's a 5-inch sensor.
Right.
But we sell it as a 4-inch sensor
Correct.
for that reason. So while it is 5 inches in length, we only say it measures 4 inches of actual water level.
Correct.
Okay, and that bottom inch, it's not possible for it to measure, right?
Not correctly.
Not correctly.
Right.
You know, basically,
it can
you'd
measure
probably
something.
be getting negative numbers in a, in a positive zone or something like that.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
all those sorts of weird things.
All those
right?
weird things.
So basically, we decided to throw out that bottom inch of it, right? And honestly, for most of the purposes that you're going to need to measure this with, you know, if you're at 1 inch or less, it's probably not enough water.
Right.
Right, and so starting the 0 at the 1 inch, in my opinion, is fine. Now we actually thought about this, right? But we could have said, you know, this 4-inch sensor here is 25% full, or 1 inch.
Right.
You know, or it is 50% full at 2 inches. But we found that customers were much more receptive to an actual inch number. Right. Rather than so we decided to use this relative range more than anything else.
Right.
You know, and we proved that out in NSI. You know, as we tested these, and we've been testing these things for months. I don't know how long does NSI go. It started before the start of the year, right?
I believe it started December. First week of December.
December, January. It's been a while of us testing these, and they just work.
They did.
They just work. And we had been testing them before we went NSI. We'd been testing them for some time as well.
Right.
So we know how they work. It's super cool technology.
Right.
It's technology that is unique in the aquarium space and exclusive to Neptune Systems. So if you're looking for this kind of technology in your aquarium, Neptune Systems is the answer for you. And let's talk about why this is awesome.
Sure.
Right? I mean, I've been loving this sensor, right? The best thing that I've used it for so far is I have a ATO reservoir in which it would be a hassle to connect that right up to our RO system. I'd have to go through the raised ceilings and do all these things. I'd probably just ask somebody else to do it, but I don't feel like I should do that.
Right.
You know? So I've just been using an ATO reservoir. And how many times in a day, or how many times when I'm leaving at night am I like, do I have to fill up my ATO reservoir? And now I don't even have to go over to that jug. I don't have to think about it. I can be in the car thinking about it, pull up my phone and be like, nope, I have a couple more days available.
Right.
Or nope, I can do it tomorrow morning, right? Biggest time value for me on that is on a Friday night, for sure.
For sure.
You know, but you know, what has been your favorite thing that you've used it for so far?
I do the same thing you do. I procrastinate.
Yeah,
Filling up my
that's
tank.
the thing. I think anyone who's into automation and control is just, we're also lazy.
So right in the morning, right before I jump in the shower, I take a look. Do I have to plan to fill up my thing?
Yeah.
If not, fiance gets mad because the alarm starts going off, and she works from home. So
Don't like
good.
that. So
Don't like that.
So the sensor for you is one of those things. Is that something I need to do before I go out the door in the morning?
Or can I wait till when I get back?
Can I wait till I get home? And then the next morning, worry about it again. Right.
Then you do it all over again.
Yeah. And then the other cool, and then in sump, I found that it is just spot on in my sump. My sump is always between 2.9 to 3.1 inches, just like always. You know, so the level valve that I have in my ATO basically always keeps it at that unique value, right? And I know that everything is fine. Because normally, how do you do that stuff, right? If you want to know that things are okay in your sump, what do you actually typically go and do?
2 optical sensors.
2 optical sensors, or you actually use your eyes.
Sure.
You go over and look to make sure it's fine.
Sure.
Now you have this sensor which will give you a relative representation of how high your sump level is, specifically that return pump section.
Right.
I've also increased my laziness with this product. So there are times that I should have filled my ATO reservoir. I did not fill my ATO reservoir, and so what happens is my sump level starts to go down. I now have different tiers where I turn my return pump down. So the first time it gets to 2.2 inches, I turn it down to 75%. The next time I turn it down to 25%, and I just kind of keep. And then at 25%, if I don't turn it down any lower than that,
I'll be in trouble.
Yeah, I just turn it off at a certain point, you know. Or manually adjust it to like 10%, you know, so it's just trickling out the top. And then I'm like, man, I really should have dealt with that on Friday.
Right.
But, you know, things happen. But there's other things that people have been using this for too, right?
Right.
What's something else you've heard the NSI team using it for?
The roller mat.
The roller mat application
I actually
is
haven't
super
used
cool.
it, but I want to.
Right. So the roller mats, how do those work? Right. So we have one in our lobby tank. I think it's still up and running. But Kurt has one on his tank. And those sensors that are in those level sensors, A, they don't connect to your apex. What are you thinking, roller mat people? Right? They don't connect to your apex. And B, water eventually gets into everything.
Sure does.
Right? And so those sensors I have found that they, on almost all of them at some point, stop working. Right? And so what happens is the water level gets up to a sensor, it then advances. The water level gets up to a sensor, it then advances. If you have one of these in that roller mat section, as that water level rises, now we can just advance that for you, right? And most roller mats will have basically a feature in which you can always roll the mat forward when it initially applies power, or you can do something where you know, you essentially trigger that level sensor to be always essentially covered, if you will. So you could remove it and put it low in the sump or something like that.
Got it.
You know, and just advance the roller mat that way. I find that that's been a super cool feature. Kurt's really enjoyed that feature because his roller mat, I won't say what brand it is or anything like that, it stopped working ages ago. And so he was just using time for a long time to make that kind of advance forward. But ultimately, the liquid level sensor came, and now as soon as it gets up to a certain level, he advances it, and he sees that it goes down. It's very
cool.
Chemicals? Could you use it for chemicals?
You can. There are some questionable ones.
There are questionable chemicals. So you could put this in your chemical reservoir. You probably wouldn't put it in your DDR, right?
Probably
Your
not.
dual dose reservoir from Neptune Systems. But if you have another reservoir, it might make sense.
Correct.
Kalkwasser, it might make sense.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
That's the one that we've tried it here a few times. It cracks. The actual acrylic.
Is that with like super concentrated
It
slurry
is.
more?
Correct.
Yeah, and so the more diluted Kalkwasser, it's going to be okay for, right?
Correct.
And what other kind of things does it work?
So for cleaning, citric acid worked great. Another one that is not recommended is the Nopox.
Oh yeah, you can't use Mopox basically in kind of anything other than apparently putting it into your aquarium because it has an alcohol in it, also known as methanol, the same stuff that's in jet fuel and things of that nature. And it works. It does exactly what it's supposed to. It's amazing chemistry, but it is not good to acrylic in any way. Right. And so these are plastic and all that sort of thing, and just will really break down the material of those liquid level sensors.
Correct. It actually cracked it.
It actually cracked it.
Cracked it.
Crazed it.
Crazed it.
Crazed it, exactly.
Better word, yes.
Exactly. So could you use this with a skimmer?
Yes. We actually have an in-house, one of our coworkers who actually did it, and he claims it is working pretty well. I haven't personally tested it, but he claims it is.
I think if you had a fairly wet skimmate, right, it would, if you had a fairly wet skimmate, it would work. I think if you have a really thick skimmate, right, and so one that comes up the line, okay, you got to think of real thick skimmate too. It's heavy, it's dense. Essentially, once it goes down, that material is going to stay on the liquid level sensor and could possibly keep it compressed.
Sure.
You could use this for an ATO.
Correct.
You could, but with an ATO, it would be an ATO that is only changing very small amounts.
Correct.
Right, so you turn the sensor on, and you probably only want to turn that pump on for a period of time, and then we can confirm that it goes on. So you wouldn't want the off effect to necessarily be controlled by the sensor itself, right? You could run it more once we confirm that it didn't fill enough. But a time sort of thing would be better with this, just because, again, that responsiveness, right? It works 15 seconds per inch, which if you have more than an inch and you're filling up your ATO, it's probably too much, so something smaller than that. But we've been experimenting with it, you know.
And that's how I use it as well.
I use it as an ATO as well.
Half an
I
inch.
haven't had any issues.
It's on for 15 seconds. It waits for 30 seconds, comes back. Are we still good? No, you need a little bit more. Top it off.
Yeah. So we have just been going on and on and on here.
Right.
So now let's see what some of the comments are looking like.
Alrighty.
This was good.
It was.
I out of all these things, like the Junior is definitely the thing I'm most excited about, but the liquid level sensors for me are just, I love them. Does the sensor break down over time? We've had test results of people using these sensors for years at this point, no problems. Can the entire LLS be underwater? Great question. Sure, it could be, but just like with anything, Vincent, if you want to go to the close-up, just like with anything, it has a circuit board up here at the top. It's all epoxied and everything like that, but water eventually gets into everything. Okay, and so you can see that you have these exposed wires, and that's all epoxied in and everything like that. So if you were to continually submerge it, you would probably eventually have issues, okay? I will say that I have been testing this for months on my end, making sure that mine gets completely submerged during my water change every week.
Right.
Haven't had any problems yet. Do I expect to have problems in the future? Yes. You know, so completely submerged, not the greatest idea, but that's why the 4-inch is probably not going to be terribly popular.
I agree.
Right? Because what reservoirs are so have such a low profile, right? The 15 and the 23 is probably going to be a much better fit for most people. What else? So we'll get into those in the next part. They were asking about calibration. We're going to go through all that. Let's actually hit Scott's. I like Scott's question there. I use the term paper. It's not really paper.
Sure.
It is I think that's the best analogy to use. It is a patented material.
Yes.
Okay. And it has been working. We have applications of this working for years at this point. This is not some like brand new thing that just showed up yesterday. It's been used in many industries for many years. It's now, we're the first to bring it to the aquarium industry and to go from there. Jim has a great question. how does it mount? We did not get into that. See Jim Welsh just how did it mount there. My good friend Jim Welsh, they're from the Northern California, inventor or part creator of the Trident. Let's give notoriety. So this is the sensor, right, or the mount, okay, and it goes on just nice and easy right here. So this will work most on any sump in terms of the edge of the sump. And you may say, oh, I'm Euro braced, I can't possibly use this. You can too. Likely you have baffles in your sump and you can clip it to the baffles. With that being said, we did hear the Euro brace outcry, right? So we do have another sensor that will be available shortly, initially only available through Neptune Systems. We don't know what the demand on this is going to be, but you can see essentially it will go onto your Euro brace there. It has these screws that you'll be able to tighten down with it, and you should see those available on our website shortly. If the demand is super high on that, we'll be able to make that a full retail product in time. Any other questions? Okay, what is the LS cost? Oh, great question. I apologize, I did not bring that up earlier. I see it over here. So this one here is $45 or $44.95. You can go full screen, that's it. $44.95. The 15-inch sensor is $59.95. The 23-inch sensor is $79.95. And the big guy, the 35-inch sensor, is $105. So we didn't talk much about what you would use the 35-inch sensor for. This is for reservoirs, right? Of when to kick on your RO. If you are filling, right, you could definitely fill at a point that it gets low. I would have the off B, that's probably a high point, or the off B very low on the sensor itself, right? So you can use it for that purpose. But essentially this is for your brute trash cans, things of that nature, is what the 35-inch. All right, the cord length from Jason Martin is plenty. I don't know how long it is, but it's plenty.
Yeah, I don't know.
I will say that. If it's not long enough, there's another FMM module for you that you can bring the FMM module to go do it closer. I probably wouldn't recommend the extension cables for this, the 3-prong extension cables for this one in particular, but who knows, it might work. All right. What else we got? All right, I think we've hit most of them. So now we want to know how it's going to work. How do I use it? Like, how do I use it on my Apex, right? So how do we do that? So there's a way that we do this.
There is a way.
There is a way. Everything okay over there? Okay. So the way we do this, and how do we do that? We do that the same way we do everything, Hugo. There's a task for that. If you could take me over to the iPad, please, Vincent. So first off, this is Apex Fusion. This is the Beta UI dashboard. And I do want to show off just a couple new things because I think they're super cool. So we do have a new wallpaper feature. So I have chosen animated bubbles for my wallpaper. You can use a blue background if you wanted. Okay. You could use a macro a macro coral shot if you wanted, but I like the animated bubbles. Okay, it's much better than just the straight up gray, the Neptune gray. So that's what we've been keeping on here. Most of us have been using the bubbles, so it's a great new feature. And then another cool new feature is when you set up a new A2 or A3 series Apex now, there's this new kind of welcome to your dashboard icon, right? And that is to help take you to tasks. Okay, so the task feature is how we set up new things. Okay, and we can talk about it till we're blue in the face if you want.
Can you back up one step?
No, never. But go on. What
You forgot the first step.
Oh, with a new product. What do you got to do with new product?
Update firmware.
Okay, so this Apex has already been updated, but there would be a bell right up here in the top right-hand corner. Right now I have an alert on because I don't have any probes connected or anything like that to this guy. But you would see a bell there that said you need to update the firmware. And there's a cool new feature in firmware world. Cool new feature in firmware world. Not only do you just get to push a button now, but look at that. They added like really detailed release notes. You know, you'd normally only find these on the forum.
Right.
Right? And you can see the release notes for the current one you're doing, or you can see the one that you just installed, right? So I currently have the most recent installed, but if you want to see what changes from one install to the next, you now have that ability to do it. After, of course, we update the firmware, we are touching. So after we update the firmware, we're having some mic issues, but after we update the firmware, because this is an FMM module firmware, you would see another bell show up.
Sorry.
A lot of feedback.
Can't hear me?
I can hear you, but it's a lot of feedback. Something's not.
All right, cool. We will get it figured out. Is it me?
No, it's, if I turn off you, it goes away. So it's you.
Okay.
It's all right.
Just double check the mic connection. Yeah, cause see how you're pushing in on it there? So just put it in your pocket and then straighten that out a little bit. Hugo's first time.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So whenever we kind of are adding new features to something like the FMM, like the LLS, we'd also have to update the module firmware for the LLS.
Correct.
The task would tell you to do this too, but we kind of already did that.
Right.
So let's set up one of these things. So I'm going to go and say, take me to tasks. Booyah. Task. What am I setting up? I'm setting up a liquid level sensor. Booyah. All right, and so we're going to configure a liquid level sensor. And so the first part there was just basically connect it to my FMM. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to select the FMM. I'm now going to connect the sensor. I'm going to plug it into port 1. Okay. I'm going to say I put it into port 1. I'm just going to call this, let's call this test. Why not? Hit next. And then what are we configuring? A 4-inch. So we just say that there. Now, I'll go ahead and stop and pause real quick.
Sure.
So something has changed in terms of the way the FMM works too in this release. Okay. Prior, when you connected a new accessory to the FMM, we would have something called auto detect.
Right.
Okay, and so when you connected it and you connected an optical sensor or a flow sensor, we would say, oh, that's a flow sensor. We know exactly what that is. These LLSs actually made that not work so well anymore.
Correct.
Right? So we had to turn auto detect off. Which means now when you connect a new FMM accessory, it kind of either A, need to go into the FMM module, or B, you need to go through the task.
Correct.
And so that's what we're doing right now, going through the task. We just set this up as a 4-inch LLS. I'm going to say to receive alerts, when it gets below, we'll just say 0 or 0.3, right? And so remember, that's not actually 0.3 inches, that's 1.3 inches. And all set to 0 alerts, above 3.4, whatever. Okay. And so now, LS is configured.
Correct.
Okay? And so we are going to go ahead, if we were to, actually, we should put it in, or do you want to calibrate it next?
Let's calibrate it.
Let's just go ahead and calibrate it, all right? So how precise are these, Hugo?
They're pretty precise. The smaller ones, obviously, are much better, around 0.2
Okay.
inches.
Cool. And the larger ones, probably 0.3 to 0.4?
3, 4.
Right? And I mean, you got to think about it relatively, in 36 inches of length,
Right.
or 35 inches in the LLS 35, what's the difference between, 36.7 and 36.4?
Right.
It's not a whole lot.
Well, it'd be actually 34, right? Because
Yeah,
we
yeah,
only max
exactly.
out at 34.
Yeah, that's what I meant, say 34.
Okay.
So there's not a whole lot of a difference there.
Right.
And so, if you're on that much of a razor's edge on 36 inches, you probably don't have things set up right.
Right.
But the smaller ones are about accurate to
Yes.
0.2, or 0.2, I should say.
0.2.
And it's very reproducible.
Very
If you were to have 2 inches of liquid and continually put the sensor in there, it would continually show 1.8, 0.8 or 1.2 inches every time.
Correct.
And that's very reproducible. But in terms of accuracy, too, of where the water level is, we also allow for a 3-point calibration
Correct.
in the task setup. So I've already got this going. I'm going to say that's the sensor we're going to do. There's information here of how to basically calibrate this. So essentially,
That's actually kind of good stuff. How about you say
you want to
some-
read it?
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
we-
maybe not read it, but pretty much what this is saying is, if you're on your low level, you're really concerned about the 1 inch.
Mm-hmm.
You should calibrate your low level at the 1 inch.
Yeah.
And if you care about the 2.5 mark, for example, for this one, you might want to calibrate at 2.5 mark.
Yeah.
So it's most accurate at those 2 points.
Exactly. So on the larger sensors, this makes a little bit more sense.
Sure.
Right? On the smaller sensor like this one, I mean, you basically want to calibrate at 1 and 4 inches.
Sure.
But it's not only a 2-point calibration we do. We do a 3-point calibration
Right.
on that, right? That's to add in that accuracy level. So I'm going to say essentially we care about, 0.5 up to about 3.5. Does that sound good to you, Hugo?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And so now place the water level of 0.5. So I see 0 here, and so I'm going to put it at 0.5, right? So put it in there. Don't put it too far. All right, there's 0. All right, so now we're at 0.5. Now, how do you do this on an actual aquarium?
I personally like doing it on my display tank.
Just do it in your tank. You can actually, you put it in your tank, you can see where the water level is very easily, and essentially clip this to the side of your tank as long as it's not too thick a glass, right? And put it on there. If it is really thick glass, then you have to make sure that you hold this very stable as you go through.
Correct.
Right? So I'm gonna hit calibrate. It's gonna take a little bit of time to settle the reading and things like that. I'm shaking the table, which also affects things. I'm gonna confirm, I definitely put it at 0.5. I think no matter what, we wait almost 20 seconds to basically confirm the level.
Yes.
Very good, Jim.
Yes.
Go ahead and put Jen's comment up there. So now it tells me to put this in at 2. So Jim summarized this very well for us. It has a non-linear response. Yes, that is completely accurate. All right. So now I'm at 2 inches, or just thereabouts, close enough. Gonna hit next.
On the Jason Martin one,
Mm-hmm.
there's that option.
What does that even mean?
He wants to see what the actual reading is in real time.
Mhm.
It's actually possible in the manual calibration.
Okay, we'll jump into that in a second. And then I'm gonna hit next. And now I'm gonna put this at 3.5. I've got to move this sensor down a little bit, push down on it, put a 3.5. Actually gonna have to move it from the sensor cap here.
I think we have water, right?
Yeah, I have a water jug. We can just add some water in.
Add a little water and it would probably be.
You can hold that for me, make sure it doesn't fall over. Vincent for the save.
Covers it though.
Yeah.
We probably would best off without it.
Best off
That's
without
okay.
it, but it's okay. Nothing like doing it real time, right?
Right.
It's close enough.
That's close enough.
All right, so now it's basically going through here, and we're going to get that done. All right, the anticipation is killing me. Oh, it's ready. It's ready. All right, so now we're done. And in a second, this will be reflected in Apex Fusion. So now we've done a 3-point calibration, because it's not a linear response, right? We can't just do 2. We have to do a 3-point calibration on it. It will read fairly accurate. Let's go ahead and put it at a different level real quick. We'll put it at like 3 inches. It was actually just right.
It's perfect, yeah.
So if I go here.
I think we were a tad bit off, because we couldn't actually see the level, but yeah, give it a minute to refresh and.
Booyah. There it was at. It was at 3.5. And now, isn't this really cool too? This little animation they made. I like the animation a lot. You can look at it as a graph too, don't worry. So if you're no, I wanted to look at it the old way. You can look at it the old way. It's no problem, and show that appropriately. So that is the liquid level sensor and how it works.
Right.
Now, let's see where people, you mentioned the manual calibration, so you would do that where?
Sure.
Go to the inputs.
No, go right on to here.
Yep, so I just click on the gear there,
Gear.
and I go to
Advanced,
advanced, and
go
I go
down.
to manual
Manual
calibration, next,
Calibrate. Just
calibrate, just do it.
It's actually going to fail because it's not at the right spot. But
Yeah. But you get a confidence level, which is basically it's settled, and you can actually see the value that it's reporting and
Correct.
things like that. So very cool stuff. All right. What other questions do we have? Anything good in there?
Units.
Yes.
Does it have different units? Of course it does. It takes care of all of our customers, both domestically and internationally. It will support centimeters and inches, no problem.
The rest of it's going to be
Okay, great. I think we knocked that LLS and answered a lot of questions about how it works. Moving on to the next product release here, which is this guy, the optical leak detector. Right? So this is a leak detector that is different from our other leak detectors.
Right.
It doesn't use a conductive surface like the solid surface detector here, the old style one, but uses optical sensors, just like you would see in the level sensor, right?
Correct.
So tell us how that works, Hugo. I'm going to go ahead
Sure.
and put it on the close-up cam.
So here you have, in essence, there's two optical sensors there.
There we go.
Pretty much as that surface, that flat surface that you see that little gray circle, little metal looking circle right
yeah,
there.
I see it.
As soon as that is actually covered, circuit is complete, and therefore detecting water.
So what I see here is I see essentially, it looks like two clear sensors here, and then I see two black sensors here. Is that right?
That is correct.
And so are these like paired up?
They are paired up, correct.
All right. And so it's, go ahead.
In essence, the black and white make a pair.
Mm-hmm.
The black and white pretty much make a pair.
So once like a pair is essentially covered,
Correct.
right? So we have coverage here and we have coverage here. That's how it detects water,
Correct.
right? And then what if we were only to cover like this half of it here?
Yeah, so there's a way that if you don't cover it completely, it may not complete the circuit.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it needs to be
Yeah. So
mostly covered.
So here, I'll try to put this on its side too. So you can see here that that surface where the detection actually occurs is a very flat surface,
Yes.
right? It actually sits completely level with the feet, right? So when water sort of comes into the presence of this sensor, it almost wicks it right underneath the sensor itself, right? And so it reacts to water very quickly once essentially that plane, this little square area here, is entirely covered.
Right.
The other great thing about this sensor too, though, is it's epoxied and there's no sensor parts that are basically coming in contact with water. So part of the issue on the solid surface detector, right, is that once water basically came in contact with this, like you could literally just like, you know, touch your forehead if you were sweating and put your finger on there and it would go off, right? Once water came into contact with this, what would be the issue is you would have to dry that out. If it was salt water, you would have to rinse it in fresh water and then dry it out. And if you didn't do that, what would happen? Corrosion would happen.
Right.
And once enough corrosion happened, it would complete the circuit and no longer work.
Right.
Granted, some steel wool and things like that would work out. Another issue too with it was if you placed it on a conductive material like concrete, right, it would have false positives. So for years, our support reps in those situations would say, "No, put it on a paper towel. Paper towel will pull in the water and that'll set it off." Right now, with the optical level sensor, you have an epoxied situation where that doesn't happen, and it's super fast. Like just touching this, nothing's going to happen. It needs to actually be water, and so you don't necessarily get false positives. And when you see this baby go off,
You know
you
something's
really
happening.
got water on the floor. There's no other reason why that would happen.
Right.
You know, and so you set this up just like you'd set up anything else. You can do it from the FMM module page, right? Which is right here.
No, that's
Nope, not there. Right here. So you can set it up exactly what type of sensor you have, or you can go to tasks and things like that. There's different tasks for adding, water on the floor detectors to your ATK and things like that. It'll work for your A2 series Apex. For A3 Apexes, you got to set it up right here, probably for another week or so.
Right.
And then there'll be a task associated with that as well. So how much are they? They are $39.95. I think the old one was $31.95. Okay, so a little bit more, but I think you get a lot more value from it. Does it mean the old sensor is bad though?
No.
No, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just it has some shortcomings that we feel that we really solved in the optical leak sensor.
I agree.
Right? Does it work with other liquids? Yeah, any liquid that's reflective, right? Which would be just about anything would work. Does dust affect the sensor at all? Not that I know of.
No.
I mean, if it got coated in dust,
if it got super dirty.
But I mean,
you're in
how
trouble.
are you going to get, the dust, how would you get dust underneath a sensor that's on the ground, Yes, so you have your LDK and you have some old sensors, you can get rid of the old ones and use the new ones. These will work actually on any A1, A2, or A3 series Apex. If you have an FMM module or an FMM port, this sensor will work, okay? What else? Do we have anything else?
I was asking about the change in the speed of change of LLS.
Yeah. So just like any sensor in Apex Fusion, it typically takes about 30 seconds for that to be reflected in Apex Fusion if there is a change. The Apex responds to that instantaneously.
Correct.
So if we say to turn something on at some temperature or some time or some level, it immediately responds to that. But let's say turn on below 2 and it's 2.1 in the Apex, but it's actually 1.9. The Apex knows it's 1.9. Right. And the Apex responds to that immediately. I saw a question earlier about programming. It works like any other sensor. If you want to switch over to iPad real quick, Vincent. You just say if, and then in this situation, this new predictive text. It's so cool. So we now essentially give you all the things you could say with if it was a programming statement. But in this situation here, I'm actually going to use test. So anything that came up with test, I can just select that, right? And then I want to say 2.0 if test. I'm sorry, I want to do a greater than. Not on my keyboard. If test is greater than 2.0, then on. See, it tries to finish the statement for me with everything I type. So you don't have to do it this way. A much better way to do it is just to use the task. But you can use any of the same if programming that you've always known and loved. It's just a new sensor that has a value. The leak sensor has a value, closed or open, right? Dry or wet. Closed is wet, dry is, or open is dry.
Right.
Got it. All right, and then finally, this guy.
Magnet optical sensor.
The magnetic optical sensor.
Magnetic.
It is just an improved version of our old optical sensor, right? Vince, if you move to the close-up cam real quick. It's, the sensor itself, is one that you probably are very familiar with. And then it's just got this great magnet here, right, that just is super strong. I don't know exactly how strong it is. Engineering, can you tell me?
I don't.
But it does work up. For any situation that I've had to use it for, it's worked.
Right.
And it's a little bit better for water intrusion, I think, than the old sensor. But otherwise, it works just as well. The old sensor is not going away, per se. I don't think you'll see the old sensors available as much with the magnet. But you'll still see the old sensor for when you have to put an optical sensor in your VAT, or an optical sensor in your Brute, or an optical sensor for the ATK. Those sorts of things we will continue to use the old optical sensors for at this time. Okay?
Cool.
And that is also $39.95. All right, so the new sensors are a little bit more, but not too much more. So that's basically kind of everything, huh?
Yeah,
What do you think? Did you like this?
Yeah, it was actually.
You were a little nervous.
I was definitely nervous.
You were nervous coming on. I had to, put a shirt on your chair today to give you some encouragement. It was fun. I'm glad you joined me, man.
Me too.
You
I
know,
had
this was a
fun.
lot of fun. So, in conclusion, new stuff available 12 a.m. Central tonight. That is also known as midnight. We have the A3 Apex Jr monitoring only solution that does temperature, it does pH, it does leak, it does level, optical level, not the LLS level. Okay, but I just wanted to clarify
Sure.
that. All right. Then we also have all the new LLS sensors. The 35 will be available early next week. Then we have the new optical leak sensor, and we have the new magnetic optics sensor all tonight. All right. So 12 a.m. Central, 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific. It's booyah time.
The only exception, did you mention that 35 will not be available?
I said that. I
Got
didn't
it.
want to
missed
harp
it.
on that. I didn't want to harp on it.
Sorry.
So the 35 has been a little bit challenging to us. We didn't necessarily want to do a 3-point calibration.
We did not.
But the 35 forced our hand.
Correct.
And I'm glad we did this.
Me too.
I'm glad we've entered this paradigm of the 35 inch. But it took a little longer just to basically get those approved in production and testing and all those sorts of things. So that will be available in a couple of days. Sounds good. So I don't think we have anything else, man.
Yes, we do.
We do? Oh.
Yes, we do.
We
This
do.
is the part I like.
Oh, raffle, giving stuff away.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't necessarily, because this one went a little long, I think I'm just gonna pull people who, I'm just gonna pull people, I don't know what that is. I'm just going to pull people, sorry, I just saw a video of myself and
I know.
I hate
That
when
was kinda
I
terrifying.
hate when that happens. I hate when that happens. So, so I do want to give away some sensors. What was our top viewership, Vincent?
67.
67 was our top viewership. I think we had more than that because we have Facebook and, oh no, it's way more than that. It's 150-ish, I think. I don't know. So I'm going to give away 3 sensors. So Vincent, spin the wheel on the sensors. So what he does is here, he just scrolls through the comments very quickly and then he stops, and the first one I see, that's who I choose, stop. All right, David Trung. All right, there we go. You are going to be getting an LS a sensor. Please message me on Facebook and you can choose which size. All right, now stop. We will go with Sean Clark. You will get an LS sensor of your choosing. All right, and stop. Stephen Kalam. If I said that right, kill him?
I think
Kill
so.
him or call him? It doesn't matter. You also get a free LS as you're choosing, and we are excited to get those out to you. So just message us on our Facebook page, and we will get those worked out for you. Okay? So MACNA Meetup. NeptuneSystems.com/meetup. I'll make that available by Friday, 10 a.m. Central. I'll put the post up on Facebook that it's available, so you guys know to go sign up. The first 200 get raffle tickets, breakfast, booze, all the fun stuff. The next 100 get raffle tickets and can definitely show up. And then after that, it's standing room only. All right? So it'll be a good time. But even if it's standing room only, I still am going to give you opportunities to win stuff. And it'll be big things. We're talking A3 Pro systems. We're talking Skies. Maybe I can get our friends over at Ecotech to throw in some Radions. I think it's going to be a good time. So the MACNA meetup, be sure to be there. Get to Milwaukee. It'll be a lot of fun. And then finally, guys, just be well. All right, and do well for yourselves. And if you need anything from Neptune Systems in terms of making sure you're getting the most out of your Apex and making sure you're successful, we're here. All right. Thanks, Hugo.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you
It's been
next
fun.
time, guys. Thank you.